Hello and welcome back to Ask 9. I'm Becky Phelps, joined here by Libby Randall.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Welcome to the streaming studio, Libby's first time here on Ask 9.
My debut.
And this is a topic we've been hearing a lot about from our viewers for the last couple. Okay, it depends on how far you go back.
Right. Oh, yes.
Weeks, months, years.
Depends on who you ask, too. You know, some people are just now hearing about it. Some people heard about it about a month ago. So, yeah, and something we've heard about and something we will continue to hear about.
Yes, we are talking about the Cedar Rapids Community School District and their plans for consolidation. So, we're going to give a short rundown to you because there is a lot packed into this topic.
Truly.
Last Friday. And it doesn't feel like last Friday. It feels like so much has happened since then.
It does. It really
Last Friday, the district released to parents their current consolidation options. They identified up to 7 schools that they would have to close down, and they would move students around, and they would start introducing intermediate schools. So it would be 1 through 4th grade, 5th and 6th grade is this new intermediate thing, and then middle school is 7th and 8th grade. That's a new thing for the Cedar Rapids Community School District. The goal, of course, is to save $11 million. Before this plan came out, one of the things we were covering was the district said that they had a huge budget shortfall. And they were going to have to figure out some way, especially since the bond failed, to address it and make up for that millions of dollars in shortfall. So we are going to toss it now to TV9's Danielle Wagner, who on Friday, we got this release at like 4 or 5, it was very late
in the day.
Maybe 4 o'clock.
Right.
And Danielle did a fantastic job of giving us a summary of what that original plan looked like. We're going to throw it to her.
The district is weighing 2 main options under the proposal, one with a focus just on enrollment, and the other which takes socioeconomics into consideration. Under the plan focusing on only enrollment, Johnson would also close, and Roosevelt would serve as a middle school, while Taft would serve as an intermediate school. While the second option that focuses on socioeconomic balance would keep Johnson open, and Taft would serve as a middle school, and Roosevelt would serve as an intermediate school. The new intermediate school model would have elementary schools house pre-K through 4th. Intermediate schools would serve 5th and 6th. Middle schools would be 7th and 8th, and high schools would stay the same. It would also redraw district boundaries and establish 3 true feeder areas. The Washington feeder area includes only these 4 elementary schools and possibly Johnson, depending on which option the board goes with. Franklin would serve as the intermediate school, and McKinley would serve as the middle school. In the Jefferson feeder, these 4 elementary schools would feed into a Wilson intermediate school, but the middle school could be Roosevelt or Taft, depending on if socioeconomics is taken into account. CRA and Cleveland would both close regardless of which option is chosen. And in the Kennedy feeder, these are the elementary schools that would feed into a Taft or Roosevelt intermediate school. Again, that depends on which option the board prioritizes. Harding would serve as the middle school, and Nixon and Pierce would both close in either option. The district says closing schools would fix its empty seats problem, as declining enrollment is costing the district millions in state funding.
That was TV9's Danielle Wagner providing a fantastic wrap-up of really what was a kind of a complicated plan that they were saying could start as early as this fall, fully implementing by 27 or 28. There are a lot of questions, which led, of course, to Monday night's school board meeting.
Yes.
And Libby, you have been talking to a lot of parents in the school district. What have they been telling you?
That's an interesting question, Becky, because the consensus in a broad sense is very much the same, but then when you dive a little bit deeper, a lot of these parents have very specific concerns. So the consensus is that they are concerned, obviously, but some of those concerns range from everything to, well, how is my child going to get to school if their current school closes? What will that transportation route look like? What will happen to those bus drivers? And then there, of course, are concerns about the current teaching staff at these schools that may close. People are concerned about whether or not they will still have a job, things like that. And so those are immediate concerns among parents. Among community members, people are just concerned about why they are just now learning about this. Because like I mentioned, some people feel as if they've known this was coming since that failed bond vote back in November. And others feel like they were blindsided by this announcement on Friday. So it's a wide range.
Very interesting. And Superintendent Dr. Tawana Lannon, previously known as Grover, she just got married. Congratulations. Did talk about that a little bit at the meeting, acknowledged that they didn't maybe say this will happen if the bond vote fails. So is that part of, that they were really just kind of blindsided? Is so interesting.
Yeah, like you mentioned, she did essentially apologize for that, and she acknowledged that a lot of people feel, again, I keep using this word blindsided, but that is out of the mouths of a lot of the parents that I spoke to that are concerned about this. And so she apologized for that. She acknowledged that. And then when I spoke to her the other day, she mentioned that she wants to continue taking input from the public, specifically these concerned parents. And so that's what may be slowing this process a bit down. She had mentioned extending the timeline about 2 weeks, but it wasn't definitive when I spoke to her whether or not that will be exact or whether or not they will come to this decision and these schools will be closed by the fall, because that was their original plan, was the school board was going and administration was going to have a decision made by the end of the month. These potential schools that, or these schools that were potentially going to be closed would be closed by the fall. So there's still some uncertainty there, but we do know that the school district particularly wants to continue taking input and taking in the comments and concerns from parents, community members, etc.
Yeah, Dr. Landon said more than 17,000 people have engaged with the feedback process about this. So I would imagine that takes a lot of time and a lot of people to go through all of that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for those who missed out, the meeting on Monday lasted, what was it, like more than 5 hours? And so that's because so many people showed up. They even had to move rooms. Usually they have it in a smaller room because so many people showed up to voice their opinion. Because, of course, as Becky mentioned, we're not just talking about 1 or 2 schools, we're talking about 6 to 7.
Yeah.
And so there are all of these people that could be affected. So they all want to make sure their voices are heard. And yeah, that's why we're at 17,000 plus now, I'd imagine.
Now, you put out a call on Facebook for parents to talk to us and weigh in on that. I know you've interviewed a couple, but how many did you hear from?
Oh, I heard it was almost immediate the response to that call out on Facebook. Many people, again, just want their voices to be heard. And again, their opinions differed in, I'm concerned about my child. One parent I heard from that struck me in particular, and I did interview, she has one child who is autistic, and when you have a child who's autistic, as she explained to me, changing schools can be very jarring. And so that was her concern. And then I spoke to another parent who said she specifically chose her home, the location of her home, because of its proximity to where one of these schools that could potentially be closing is. And so again, the reasons differ, but the concern is collective.
It seems overwhelming. It seems like it's going to take that, that they had planned to vote on January 26th. I would not be surprised to see them push that down just a little farther, just to absorb all of this.
Right. Yeah. I think that, again, talking to Dr. Lannon, that was the consensus, that they will continue to push that deadline, but when exactly is still uncertain.
Yeah, but they have said also something has to be done. They are facing like a $10 million budget shortfall.
Yes.
It is a huge concern. They have to do something about this. And I have never managed a budget for the second largest, I think it's the second largest school district, one of the largest school districts in the state. And that's a hefty job. That's a big job, a lot to go through.
Truly. Yeah. There's so many, as you can imagine, there are so many roles played throughout this process. And everybody has said that they want the best possible outcome, but it's just a matter of making sure that voices are heard while also saving that money.
Yeah, so that's where things stand right now. They are still taking feedback. They are still listening to parents, and we will see in the next couple of weeks when a decision is going to be made and then how quickly that's going to be implemented. If you'll allow me to do another brief rant, we also just started the 2026 legislative session here in Iowa. And Cedar Rapids is one of the schools that has signed on to a request for more public school funding. So that they are the 6th school, I believe, and usually schools get a 2% annual increase in their budgets from the state. They're asking for a 5% increase. Doesn't, come as a huge surprise given all that they are dealing with. But the resolution that they've signed on to also calls for the state of Iowa to phase out education savings accounts, which have made a lot of noise with the number of families that they are drawing away from public schools and towards private schools. So that is very interesting to see them, request the state not to just, maybe do less money in those, but to totally phase them out. That I found very, very interesting. Libby, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you so
here
much,
on
Becky.
Ask 9. Hopefully that gives you guys kind of a catch up. There's been a lot happening with all these decisions over the last couple weeks. And as always, if you have any questions you'd like us to look into here on Ask 9, shoot us a message on Facebook, send us an email. We love to hear from you and what you guys want us to look into. Have a great evening.